So there you go. Listen, we love when we see a little bit of great character work. That was definitely some great character work.
Uh,
But it did feel as if there was a little bit of the way a lot of the talent really feel about the quote unquote star ratings. What is that the first time you've seen that? And if not, what did you think of it the first time you saw that?
no, that's the first time I saw it. I heard about it, but I didn't see it. Um, I think, my opinion, what Christian did there, 80% of his reaction was 100% real, and he was not in character. What he did, because he was a pro, is he finished it off in character, just enough that it didn't feel like 100% of a personal attack. But you saw, in my opinion, what Christian thinks of that piece of shit, Bryan Alvarez.
Oh,
And,
come
and
on.
he's look, you can say whatever you want, you can believe whatever you want. If you're listening to this, you could agree with me, you could disagree with me. I don't really give a shit, to be honest. But Alvarez and Meltzer are cancer to the wrestling business. I think a lot of the issues that Tony Khan has had over the last year, particularly with regard to Punk and some of the bullshit that went on backstage, is at least 50% because of the bullshit that guys like Meltzer and Alvarez put out there and the shit that they stir up as a result. That ends up, and I've said this for the almost 6 years we've been doing this show, that stuff that they write about, as much as it doesn't matter because 90% of the wrestling audience doesn't read and all that shit, it ends up creating issues backstage and in some cases in management. And this is going to sound bizarre, but I am probably more supportive of Phil Brooks and CM Punk in terms of why things went south in AEW, because I do think Meltzer and Alvarez are at minimal at least half responsible for that. And Tony gets the other half because he didn't manage it. These people they were bad for business when I was president of WCW, before I became president of WCW, when I was a third string announcer in WCW. They were cancer for the business for that same reason. And we saw it manifest with regard to Punk and the bullshit that was going on backstage. They had a lot to do with it. I do think they're cancer. I think they're bad for business. I think that the people that support them should really think twice about it if they truly love the business or want to support it, because I think overall, the two of them combined are just, they're horrible. They're horrible people. And I think that's why talent react to those two pieces of shit the way they do, because they know what I know. They've seen it like I've seen it. Maybe not as much as I've seen it, because most of the time talent isn't anywhere near the business side of the wrestling business. But as talent, they know it. So I think that's why I believe. I think Christian gave you about 80% of how he really feels, and he finished it off with a little bit of a character work at the tail end, so it kind of fit. But that's how I feel.
I'm curious when you say that perhaps, and I'm not arguing, I'm just asking for clarification. When you say that you think perhaps some of the issues that CM Punk experienced in AEW are at least, I think the phrase you use is at least 50% on guys like Alvarez and Punk, or Alvarez and Meltzer. I'm trying to get clarification on that. You believe that their reporting perhaps would in a way sow discord within the company?
I
Or
think the flow of information between certain individuals in AEW that are in management to Dave Meltzer and the spin that was put on it, and then Dave would in turn report it. The reason it gets a reaction is because it's obvious to people who are backstage, who were in that locker room. It was obvious to Punk. The way it was obvious to a lot of people, by the way, because they're not very fucking good at it. Meltzer and Alvarez, they're pretty obvious. If you've watched them over the years and you read them, you can see what they're trying to achieve. Dave has an agenda, and part of it is business. One of the reasons that Dave is an apologist so many times, he claims he's not, but he is almost on a weekly basis in terms of when AEW, only delivered 800,000. Well, it was because of DirecTV and the DVR issue, which is such bullshit. It
Hang
is
on.
such bullshit.
What's Dave's agenda? I'm not arguing. I'm trying to understand.
Dave's agenda would be to create controversy. Dave's agenda, look, Dave knows that if AEW goes away and the only thing he's got to cover and trying to make money off of is his position on WWE, that's going to cost him money. His business is better when there's the ability to create competition, to create the illusion of competition, which is all AEW has been trying to do since day one, is create this illusion of competition. There is no competition for market share. The competition doesn't exist for market share. You can't compare any metric that actually matters other than an emotional one, which doesn't matter, that would suggest that there's actual competition in terms of distribution domestically, in terms of distribution worldwide. Look at what's going on with the AEW live event business. It's cratering. It's not just kind of deteriorating. They're doing their television shows in 4,000 seat arenas and not being able to sell them out. That's not competition to a product that is selling out 10 and 12,000 seat arenas twice a week. You could get as emotionally invested in AEW as you want to, but if you just look at numbers and facts, there is no competition. But Dave tries hard to create the illusion of it because then he can stir up the tribalism that everybody's kind of complaining about, because that's clicks. That's an opportunity to sell dirt sheet bullshit. That's an opportunity to get more attention on social media by creating this illusion and creating some of the controversy, or at least contributing to it. It's way more nefarious than I think people realize.
Help me understand. Do you think that when said differently, you think he's trying to sell newspapers?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering,
by creating issues and throwing fuel on fires that benefit him. Absolutely.
well, let's back up to something else you said, because a minute ago you said that members of AEW management, it almost felt like you were implying the Young Bucks, but I have it on really good authority that that is not the case. I mean, those guys have been, I'm not going to say on a gag order, but legally unable to talk about any of that stuff. And I know they've, since Punk's gone, they've had fun on being the elite and things like that. But I don't think that was the case. Now, I'm not saying there's not other people who are in management. I mean, there's one name I keep hearing over and over and over that nobody will say out loud, but that's more of a recent hire. I don't think that was the case. I mean, I'm fascinated by your idea that you think that this is somehow good for Dave's business, because I don't think anybody sees this controversy and says, "Oh, I better go subscribe to the newsletter to get all the dirt."
But the more divisive chatter there is, the more interest that can be created in the personal backstage drama. Because let's be fucking honest about it, the personal backstage drama far exceeds anything that happens inside of the ring in AEW. That's way more interesting to the average wrestling fan that subscribes to dirt sheets and lives on the internet and all that. That's the crap that they want to live off of and be entertained by in a twisted way. I think Dave does a great job of throwing fuel on those fires. And I didn't say the Young Bucks. I'm not pointing a finger at them because I don't know that as a fact. But whether it's them or friends of them or supporters of them.
Oh, okay, I see.
And because that's the way that, do I think, the Young Bucks pick up the phone and call Dave? Oh, you wouldn't believe what happened today. No, I don't believe that. Do I think it filters from them or people like them? Maybe not from them. I don't
just necessarily want to accuse them. I see what you're saying. They're friends.
People within the office that have their agendas or they're close enough to the Bucks, but yeah, they also can feed information. That's how it happens more often than not. And I think Dave is just enough. I don't want to say anymore. If I talk too much more about this, I'll get hot.